Ahoy, shipmates! It's a drone video. In fact, it's P&O Iona. Coming up Southampton water during the daytime. So this is why I thought I'd get out and do a bit of droning here. Obviously, this time of year with all that silly weather and wind and darkness, it's quite difficult to get the droning in of the ships. Well, we had a new ship arrive last week and I missed that. It wasn't important at the time, but I'm in port at the moment. And in fact, I'm somewhere different. I'm down on Southampton water on the northern side. It's at Netley Cliff Sailing Club. This is where we have all of our cameras. In fact, the reason I was down here was I was fixing it. And this is the view from the Netley Cliff Sailing Club. Occasionally the camera loses connectivity with the internet. I think it's a combination of sort of a really weak Wi-Fi signal to the camera. So therefore, after a while, it seems to lose connection. It just needs a reboot, but I can't connect to it, so I have to physically have to come to site, do a reboot, and then we have connection resumed. And we don't normally see Iona arriving, or in fact any cruise ship arriving at this time of day, unless they're new or something odd's going on. And that is the case here. Something odd is going on. Iona was down in the Mediterranean, off Portugal somewhere, and she had to call in for a medical emergency. Even though Iona is a very large cruise ship, it's not the largest. The latest is the Carnival's Wonder of the Seas. The total capacity of over 9,000 passengers and crew. Now, we won't have an opportunity to see Wonder of the Seas anytime soon because she's based out of Florida, cruising the Caribbean. But, you know, perhaps one of these days I'll get over there, or perhaps she'll come over here. More likely, the Wonder of the Seas will visit the port of Southampton. That will be a marvel indeed. Oh, while we're waiting for Iona to come up Southampton water, there's been a few other things going on in port. I was testing cruise cam the other day and just happened to catch an air ambulance making a quick visit to the ocean terminal. We tend to see a lot of helicopters here in the port of Southampton. You often hear people talking about the helicopters of Southampton. I think there are a number of reasons for the amount of helicopters. Of course, there are air ambulances, and as you can see here, the Coast Guard. Now, luckily, this will look like just a training mission, no actual vessel or humans in danger, or shipmates for that matter. So we get the Coast Guard, the ambulance. Also get a number of police helicopters whizzing around. Southampton being one of the busiest leisure boating areas in the entire world, we also get an awful lot of Coast Guard helicopters. Also, we get super yachts, of which Solent Ships featured on the BBC News the other day, with Sophie Rayworth.
Luxury yachts owned by Russian oligarchs have been seized by the French and German authorities. The world's biggest super yacht, belonging to the metal tycoon Alisher Usmanov, was impounded in Hamburg. A second yacht was seized in Marseille. Meanwhile, the head of Ukraine's largest energy company has told the BBC that the West must stop buying any oil or gas from Russia if it wants to stop the war spreading. Here's our economics editor, Faisal Islam.
Seized the floating palaces of top Russian billionaires accused by the European Union of being too close to Vladimir Putin. The Dilbar mega yacht, the largest in the world with 2 helipads, owned by the British football-linked Alisher Usmanov, and now seized by German officials.
Now, that's not the first time that Solent Ships have been on the news, and hopefully not the last time. And also, hopefully Solent Ships won't be on the news for something inappropriate. Still waiting for Iona to come up the Southampton water here. Spot a sun coming through the clouds. I was hoping that something dramatic might happen, but it is quite overcast today. It's also a little on the chilly side. And surprisingly, quite high up, reasonably windy, which we'll see later on when the drone adopts a bit of a cockeyed angle. Due to regulations, I can only fly 500 metres from my takeoff point. And at the moment, I'm at 500 metres. Unfortunately, I'll just have to wait for Iona to get a little bit closer. In the meantime, I can show you a bit of a time lapse I made earlier from the cruise cam, which is up and running, I'll say to some extent. It's a little testing phase at the moment. It certainly illustrates the quickness that weather can come through the port here. And if you're a sailor and you're out on the water, you do need to be prepared for these things, because it can catch you out. A sudden squall will come through with some sharp wind and some upsetting rain, so you need to be prepared. I'm still in communications with ABP at the moment, and we're very nearly at the last hurdle. Just dotting those I's and crossing those T's. Hopefully have all the cameras back up and running before you know it. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank all the shipmates for their support of the channel during this difficult time. Now Iona is almost with us. She will get a little bit closer. A relatively new ship, Iona, coming in out of the port of Southampton. Maiden voyage was the 7th of August 2021. With a few lockdown restrictions in between. I don't think she's been as full as she could have been. Lots of shipmates all seem to have cruises booked up Iona. A very popular vessel indeed. And of course, one of the largest vessels. Total capacity for passengers is 5,206 passengers with a crew of 1,762. Environmentally conscious, Iona is the first LNG passenger ship for the UK market. You really don't appreciate the size of Iona until you see her next to some other ships, or especially other cruise ships. It looks all in proportion. It's just there's a couple more rows of decks, a little bit wider, a little bit beamier, a little bit taller, a little bit longer. All adds up to a really rather large ship. Adds up to it. That was service speed of 17 knots, although I did notice earlier when she was coming up to the Isle of Wight, she was hitting 23 knots, which was quite impressive, so it must have been catching up, I'd imagine, for lost time. Really must throw a spanner in the works for the organisation. Normally the cruise ships will arrive 6 or 7 in the morning, allowing passengers to have a little breakfast, and then off they pop in the mornings, and then the crew's got enough time to turn the rooms round, load the ships up with food and booze and the occasional bottle of rum, and then passengers get on board. But unfortunately, due to the medical emergency, she's not arriving in port until 12:30. Unfortunately, due to the late arrival time, it shifts all of the times around, so you're not due to leave until midnight. This must be particularly hard on all of the crew who have to clean the cabins and load the vessel. They've got to work much later into night, and of course maybe all the catering staff will be thrown out. They'll be putting on lunches for the shipmates who can't leave, and of course when the passengers are arriving really late, they'll be wanting dinner quite late. Normally they stop serving, I think, around about sort of 9:30, so perhaps they'll have to extend the dining time. So it's a real knock-on effect. But you know, passenger safety is paramount, so we understand why it happens, but it just must be a lot of effort for everyone. I was hoping for some more colourful weather today, but that cloud cover really has dampened down the sun. Lovely Union Jack emblazoned on the bow of Iona, along with a name. Named after one of the Scottish islands, in a customer-run public competition. You can see here the wind is quite strong high up. I'm as high as I can fly at the moment, and the drone is telling me it's very windy and it's complaining, and as you can see it's giving it a bit of a list to the port side. And the Netley camera has a list to the starboard side. Oh, everything wonky today. Oh, she's probably 3/4 wet. Southampton water now, approaching dock head. 6 hours behind schedule. Arriving a little bit of sun though. Patches of sun coming through. And it's about this time I normally take a photograph. I haven't flown the drone for so long, I've forgotten what I normally do. And of course, I remember now, I take photographs. It's not going to be a particularly brilliant photograph, I don't think. But nonetheless, we'll give it a go. See if I can persuade the drone to level out a bit more. Well, that's actually not too bad. The sky is quite dramatic there. One of those days with lots of dark, foreboding clouds. Yeah, that's not too bad. See, the stern of Iona also has the Union Jack emblem. And the name of the vessel clearly emblazoned on the stern. Iona currently due to depart at midnight tonight, very late. Don't normally have cruise ships departing so late. She'll be on her way to Vigo in northwestern Spain. It's a very popular destination for cruise ships to stop at. I'm not sure what the fascination with Vigo is, although it is quite a nice place. I went there a few years ago, not by ship, but by car. It was quite, of course, the area is quite popular with pilgrims. Travelling on the network of pilgrim routes crossing over the Camino de Santiago. That sounds like I should give that a go one day, stretch the old land legs. I've got a view here of the Iona, just covering the red funnel on the way to the Isle of Wight. Ideal place to go ship spotting if you have to coordinate your travels to the Isle of Wight with the arrival departure of cruise ships, and you get a phenomenal view. So, as we know, cruise ships don't always arrive and leave at the same time, so it can be tricky. Right, better bring that drone back. And for all of you wondering, the Netley Cliff Sailing Club is just here right in front of us, and that's where the camera is located, giving us the fantastic views of Southampton water, dock head, and even all the way across to the Isle of Wight. And of course, during Storm Eunice, we had a wonderful view of the water lapping against the cliff in front of the yacht house. Well, I think that about sums it up, shipmates. I shall leave you with an old time lapse of Iona in port. So, until next time, shipmates.